To the Central Texas Command Center, in the heart of the resistance. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Thank you for joining us, radio listeners and PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. We're going to be taking a very close look at WikiLeaks coming up in about an hour and a half. We have two guests joining us, Wayne Madsen and, of course, John Young of Cryptome. Give us their take on WikiLeaks and what these thousands of documents coming out that reportedly show the true nature of the war. Mass murder, war crimes being the official policy. But is this any news? I mean, our government has promoted torture, secret arrest, the torture of people's children in front of them. We have an unlawful, illegal government who we know pays the Taliban to give them innocent 12, 13, 14-year-olds to be tortured at bases all around the world to create fake intelligence. Meanwhile, the true al-Qaeda and Taliban commanders are released, according to Newsweek, Associated Press, and the Financial Times of London, as part of the airlift of evil. So we'll be discussing all of that. I have to say, the information WikiLeaks has released looks very accurate to me, and much of it's already publicly available information. It's come out here and there. And so the very clear picture that they've been able to create, releasing these documents that were leaked to them, I think jives with reality. But some are critical of WikiLeaks, not just saying they're traitorous for releasing the information, but saying they have connections to intelligence agencies. Again, in my gut, I don't really see evidence of that. But I do respect Mr. Young and Mr. Madsen, so we'll be talking to them and getting their concerns coming up today. Right now, let's go ahead and go into the news, and there is a lot of it. I want to hear from callers and get your take on this. We're going to continue, at least in the first hour of the radio broadcast today, to give first-time callers a chance, people who've wanted to call in over the years, but the phone's always busy or the lines are filled. This is your chance to join us on air. I'd love to get your take on any of the news I'm about to cover or any news issues you wish to raise. 1-800-259-9231. 1-800-259-9231 is the toll-free number to join us today. But right now, let's go ahead and get into the news. This is a Kurt Nimmo story up at Infowars.com, and he boils down all the mainstream reportage that's going on, plus some of the backstory of what's been happening. But former head of the NSA and former CIA boss, he's been in both positions, says Iran attack inexorable. Basically something that's a foregone conclusion. According to Michael Hayden, a CIA boss under George W. Bush, Iran's not having a nuke is just as dangerous as it having one. This is the guy who lied about spying on the American people without warrants and then got caught doing it. Hayden predicted Iran's plans to get itself that step right below a nuclear weapon, that permanent breakout stage, so the needle isn't quite in the red for the international community. Hayden said that reaching even that level would be a destabilizing to the region as actually having a weapon, and it will result in an attack by the U.S., Israel, or both. Killing Iranians now, quote, seems inexorable and may not be the worst of all possibilities or outcomes, according to Hayden. And, of course, that's not just Infowars.com reporting it. Here is the Associated Press. Ex-CIA chief, strike on Iran seems more likely now. Israel's also saying the same thing. Here's a report out of Iran. Iran's military leaders try to raise their nation's confidence in face of a possible attack. Continuing, here's Haaretz. U.S. strike on Iran likelier than ever, former CIA chief says. So that really is the most important news today, in my humble opinion. The establishment is clearly positioning the public mind that it's a foregone conclusion that Iran will be struck. Meanwhile, there's other reports today where the White House is saying that Pakistan is funding Taliban and al-Qaeda groups. Pakistan, of course, was aided by the United States and the EU in the last 15 years, getting nuclear weapons and delivery systems that can deliver them more than 3,000 kilometers. Our government, of course, aided India in getting nuclear weapons. The strategery, not a word, but the strategic outlook there is to get Pakistan and India fighting with each other, but a very, very dangerous system, a very, very dangerous gambit there. And we'll be going over some of that information coming up. But now it's admitted that there are U.S. Special Forces, after years of denial, commanding different factions inside Pakistan. So the United States is now opening up a new war there as we go bankrupt at home. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says documents on thousands of possible U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan paint a picture of just how brutal this war is. U.S. forces fighting in Afghanistan could be investigated for thousands of possible war crimes allegedly committed when the Bush administration was running the war. That was the shocking claim Monday from the head of the website that has already released a trove of damning documents suggesting Americans were misled about how well the Afghan war was being waged. It's up to the court to decide, really, if something in the end is a crime, WikiLeaks founder said in London. Assange said the leaked documents thus far were dated from January 04 to December 09. And it goes on to say, only scratch the surface of what's really going on. In particular, he pointed to the deadly missile strike occurring by Task Force 373, a unit allegedly charged with hunting down and killing Taliban targets. Well, I mean, again, everything that's in these documents is already out there. Even under Obama, they now have expanded this, saying we will now kill unnamed terrorists. In fact, drone attacks to expand to no-name terrorists. Search that term. I want to show people on the TV screen that are watching at prisonplanet.tv, or you can just search that term as a radio listener. They admitted, what, a month and a half ago? Yes, if anybody has a weapon in Pakistan or Afghanistan, and basically everybody has a gun there, it's Wild Wild West, that the Army and the Air Force separately, and then they have the CIA also running drones, literally guys in suits. So the CIA now has its own branch, I guess the fifth branch of the military, with the contractors. There it is, no-name terrorist, now CIA drone targets, CNN. And they just go on to report that if you have a weapon, we kill you. And they openly say it's collateral damage. If there's a wedding with 500 people at it, and they kill a couple hundred of them to kill that one person they think maybe Taliban or al-Qaeda, that's okay. And now the Pentagon is removing the pain rays, the microwave guns, from Afghanistan and saying they weren't really that useful, but that they will be deployed in the United States. And, of course, that was in the San Diego paper a few months ago and other newspapers, that they are deploying the pain rays against the American people. So you can't really legally use it against foreign enemies, but, hey, American enemies, you know, the evil Tea Party people that are constitutionalists, that support the Bill of Rights and Constitution, they are the enemy of this foreign offshore banking cartel that's taken over the country. Business Insider's got a good article. Says, get ready for one day of talk about Afghanistan, 10 days of talk about WikiLeaks, and the future of the media. Today, the White House is dealing with the fallout of this weekend's massive Afghanistan document breach. But now you know that last night the New York Times, Der Spiegel, and The Guardian simultaneously produced reports on the staggering document cache published by the increasingly influential site WikiLeaks, which paints an ugly picture of the war in Afghanistan. But again, looking at these documents and the reports on the documents, it's everything that was already admitted. It's accurate info. And this is not what the establishment wants to see or hear right now. So I don't see how WikiLeaks could be the bad guys unless they're trying to set the precedent with good info to later give people bad info. Or I can see the argument, well, this info is already known. I mean, it's kind of like they arrest people that follow the orders to torture in Afghanistan and Iraq. I mean, scores of these contractors and army people are serving long prison sentences. And then Bush comes out a month ago and says he'd ordered the torture and he'd order it again. So there does seem to be a certain flaunting of all of this, but I don't know. It's all cloak and dagger. And, of course, here's another article dealing with the WikiLeaks situation. U.S. condemns release of documents on Afghan war. Pakistan said the disclosure of 92,000 classified documents on the war in Afghanistan wouldn't affect its relations with the U.S. or its role in the conflict. Over the White House condemned the leak.